During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Rachelle Hannoush. How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Thank you for coming on. I do truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on. So thank you.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So for the first question I want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So I started my company, Rooted Leaders, in 2019, and it's really do a lot of training, coaching, and consulting for leaders in the early childhood field, anyone working with youth and children all over the States.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background to how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. So I always say my journey was not linear. It was more of a squiggle. I started in the early childhood education field when my daughter turned 3 in 2015. And I started as a teacher, and then I continued getting courses, one course at a time, and improving myself, getting a lead teacher, then a director certification. I was a director at a preschool for 8 years that I grew and developed and founded. I was the founding director of it. And then throughout my journey, I saw the need for professional development, for teachers that needed support, for curriculum, for design of classrooms, family engagement, and more. And that's what started leading me into creating my own training curriculum.
Was this always the kind of path that you always knew you were going to take?
Absolutely not. I went to school for nuclear medicine. At the time, I signed up for that field because I thought it sounded. I was young and I didn't have anyone advising me. So I went to school and I graduated with a nuclear medicine degree. I moved back to Western Mass, and a lot of my interviews said I was overqualified. I did have a very high GPA, and that left me with no job. And after that, I got a job doing kind of lab work at a lab in Agawam, and then had my daughter, and I discovered the need for early childhood programs, and I started working as an assistant teacher to get the 50% off for my daughter. And that started my journey in early childhood education.
Would you say that you were always a great student that got great grades throughout your career?
Absolutely not. I was not a good student until sophomore year of high school. I always struggled. I went to school in Lebanon, and I grew up in an environment that was very, I guess, disciplinary, if you want to call it. And it was a lot about memorizing, and it was not about honoring the child, seeing what each different student's learning style is. I was often kicked out of class, yelled at, hit with a stick back in the day, and I failed 2 classes. I failed freshman year and had to do it, not because I wasn't smart, but because there were a lot of things going on in my life at the time. My behavior was getting me in trouble. It was really, now as I reflect back, it was me trying to find a place for myself in the world. And I still remember to this day my principal at the time sitting with my mom and me, and my principal told my mom, don't bother with her. She will be nothing in her life. Yeah.
Wow. So how do you go from having your principal tell you that to then going into college and getting straight, like great grades? Like, what was the mindset shift that you had?
My parents, soon after my second time doing freshman year in high school, mom decided that it was time for me to change an environment. So we moved to the United States, and I went to a school in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and the teachers were so amazing. They put a lot of effort into building their relationship, and there was a lot of support. And that's really all I ever needed, which I didn't know at the time. And I slowly became a straight A student, really good grades, student government, and the right school environment and the right support is what changed my path and rebirthed that love for education, which used to be hate.
So what is some advice that you can give to somebody that's struggling with their grades but they want to improve it?
I think set a goal for you. I want you to envision yourself of where you would like to be. Where do you see yourself in the future? Think of things that bring you joy and set little goals, not giant goals. When we are working towards something that we enjoy, one step at a time we can get to it. It could be one course at a time. It could be doing one thing once a week that improves our skill set, whether it's college or it's not college, because not everyone ends up going to college. But if you're choosing to take the entrepreneurship side or small businesses and choosing not to take the higher education journey, focus on your skill set. I am 36 and I'm still always looking for different ways to learn more, to improve myself. I'm always signing up for courses and certificates programs because the world is always evolving and there's always new things, and you have to be relevant. You have to stand out when you are put within a group of people. What makes you special? And that's going to reflect what's your passion and what you're good at.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. So for you, did you know that you were going to take the entrepreneurial route? Like when you first got it, like you said, you knew you didn't want to do it. You got the career, you got the degree, you didn't really want to do it. You found your passion for early ed. So did you know that you were going to end up starting your own business that involves helping early ed?
Absolutely not. It started as a side hustle by accident. I had people reach out to me and saying, "Hey, Rochelle, can you come and train our staff?" And then it turned into parenting workshops as well. So it started as a side hustle, as something that I did on the side, and then it grew. Once I started setting up goals, I was able to register it, and it grew from there. It started becoming contracts with bigger companies or nonprofits. And then there's always a what's next for me. Once you reach a specific goal, then there's a next goal. Something that's a new goal that I put for myself last year is that I wanted to teach in higher ed and colleges. And I'm going to be starting in October, and I'm going to be teaching in higher ed. And I'm super excited to be able to reach that goal.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So for you, why did you want to expand into higher ed?
Again, whenever you reach a specific goal, then you want to look at what's next. I've done contracts, I do conferences, I go and do one-on-one coaching and consultation. Part of my kind of inner thoughts is that there should always be more than one thing that I'm doing. I'm usually doing 3, 4, or 5 things at a time because I don't like putting all my eggs in one basket, but that's me personally. So if I'm really successful in one thing, I'm always starting to work on myself in 2 or 3 other areas that maybe in 10 years are going to blossom for me.
So I like what you talked about. You said you want to take smaller steps to bigger goals. So what does that look like for you when it comes to taking small steps?
It looks like me signing up for a nonprofit certificate program. So for example, a nonprofit learning institute. It's a program that is going to require me to dedicate a lot of time learning, but it's also an area that I am not good at. I'm new to the nonprofit world, and it's a place where I want to grow because I see a lot of opportunity, whether it's in my early education or higher education. So I always look at my weaknesses and I sign up for things, or I find opportunities to grow my skill set and my professional journey in those.
That's nice. So as somebody that's also new to the nonprofits, what is some advice that you can give to me to help improve my skills as working in a nonprofit?
Always look for areas to support that kind of provide you, whether it's courses or certifications, but also look for mentors. If you have friends or colleagues that are in the nonprofit world, or if you have a specific nonprofit that you're like, you know what, I really want my nonprofit to look like this one. I like their branding, I like their vision, I like their values. Reach out, say, hey, I'm new and I would love to sit down and talk to you. I would love to learn more about how you did this, or about what things have worked or what things haven't worked for your nonprofit. Also, again, the world is changing. The world of nonprofits and for-profits are changing. Marketing, finance, everything is always where there's AI now, and there's a lot of shift happening in the industry. So don't be afraid to reach out. This is how I got my higher ed job, and I'm gonna share the story. In April, In April, I graduated with my master's in early education in May. And then in April, I said to myself, I'm going to teach in higher ed this year. So I sent a LinkedIn message to the president of a specific college that I like. And I reached out and I said, hey, I'm a student and I graduate next month. I would love to learn from you and to possibly join your team in the future. Would you be open to having a Zoom call with me? I did not anticipate that she's going to respond, because I have sent emails to my college's president and I never received any responses. She responded and she said, I'm gonna send my secretary and I'm gonna set up a Zoom call. We met in May, just an introduction. I said that I really want to teach in higher ed, and it's something that I've been looking forward to do. And 3 months later, I get a phone call saying, we're coming to Western Mass and we would love for you to meet our staff and to take them on a tour in the Western Mass area. And then it led to me being hired to teach in higher ed. So all because I had the initiative to message that person on LinkedIn that most likely could have not responded, especially that I've already had. Sometimes you get ghosted or they don't respond, or they are presidents of colleges, so it's okay to be not neglected, but not everyone's going to answer, but taking the risk because that one person might answer and you're not losing anything.
You talked about how you wanted to go into higher ed because you felt like you've done a lot inside of early ed and you wanted to expand. So what is your goal when you get into higher ed?
So my goal, sometimes I look far ahead. You might laugh at me, but for me, for higher ed, it's like this is my retirement plan. If I start teaching a course or two, maybe 10, 15 years from now, when I don't feel like working 40, 50 hours a week.
So as somebody I've personally been in business for about 2 years now. So what is some advice that you can give to somebody that's new into being an entrepreneur?
I think outreach is your biggest thing. Being present in the community, your local community first. Be at every event, be at all the places where you see action happening that is relevant to your work, whether it's conferences, community events, marketplaces. Again, it's going to be different depending on what the workforce is that you're in. Always be up to date with your marketing and branding. Branding is huge when it comes to entrepreneurship, and sharing on social media, having a newsletter that people subscribe to, and being relevant.
What were some challenges that you had to face when you started as an entrepreneur?
For me, because my journey as an entrepreneur was a side hustle, I didn't have a pressure. If you have to get to it now, I slowly worked on it slowly while having a stable income. And I am still a big believer in that, is always having something stable until you build your business to be ready to be on its own. And sometimes people do it the complete opposite and just go full on in. My dad did that once with a restaurant and he lost everything. So I always have this kind of fear of don't put all your eggs in one basket. Always have a plan B and a plan C.
You talked about how you seen yourself after college. You always knew that you wanted to be in early ed. So how does it feel knowing that now that you feel like you've done a lot in early ed, you're able to move on to higher ed? How does that make you feel?
I guess you can say proud, but I'm someone who's always looking for the future. That's my personality, and it's always, for me, it's always what's next. But also I've gotten to a point where I can reflect and say, what can I utilize from my skills to help the upcoming workforce, to help the youth, and to create an impact within my community that's positive, using all the investments I've made in myself.
So throughout the years, I know you haven't had a great day every single day.
No.
So how are you able to go past on those days where you might feel like quitting, or you might feel like maybe this isn't for me?
I have a thing where I'm not reactive. When something happens, we all have very tough days. I've had very tough days, very tough years where things just don't align. When something happens, I step back, I react minimally, and then I reflect, and I create an action plan. So I grew up in Lebanon where we have on and off wars happening, and over there we have a very high resiliency kind of scale, you can say. But in my world, the world I grew up in, is it's never the end of the world. Unless someone's dead, there's always a solution. You take a breath, you reflect, and you move on.
So I just have a couple more questions for
Yes.
you, Ian. So in my book, I Am a CEO, Realistic CEO, Tony, he talks about the LBW, the long, lonely, boring work. So can you tell us about the LBW inside of your career?
Absolutely. Lots of nights I put my kids to sleep, and this is my most productive. We're always working whenever no one's seeing. It's always happening, and a lot of times you sacrifice not being in certain places because you have to prepare a curriculum or hop on a Zoom meeting or go to a specific meeting. But those sacrifices are what pay off at the end. And we don't show off everything when you are branding or marketing. Maybe you're seeing all the great photos of the successes, but where there's success, there's a lot of long hours and a lot of boring work that happens.
You talked about how you like to take small steps. You talked about how you did good in early education, but you wanted to move on and will expand into higher education. So what are your goals for higher education?
Absolutely. So I guess with early education, when you start as a teacher or as an educator or director, then I started my path towards being someone who's coaching and consulting and creating curriculum for school administration and for educators. The next step up from there is for you to gain credibility, you have to have your master's degree. And then after that, which I just received in May, next thing up that ladder is teaching in higher education, which is teaching in early education. So teaching our incoming workforce, students that are like you, that are entering the early childhood education field. That's the vision. But for me professionally, it adds credibility and it adds a new skill set that I can add on to my skills. I do also foresee that in the future, I definitely would want to get a doctorate as well. What it will be in, I don't know. I'm a big believer in do what you have to do now, and the future will unfold itself. As long as you're always working towards improving your skill set, your connections, your collaboration, looking outside of the box, and never saying this is too hard or I can't do it. I always look who's on top. Who's the best person? Who's the best college? Who's the best, professor? Or who's the best nonprofit that really aligns with my values and my mission? And I reach out to them, I learn from them with humbleness and with excitement. And not everyone has this type of initiative or hunger for always wanting more, and that's okay. Some people are happy just doing what they're doing, and that's okay as well. If you have something that brings you joy and you feel this is your comfort level and you don't want to go, there's different temperaments and there's different mentalities and ideologies when it comes to professionalism.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on to the podcast. I do truly appreciate that, so thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day, and to all of you, remember to set your goals and do it one step at a time.
And I want to thank every single one of you for all the support that you have shown me in this past year of my journey of becoming the realistic CEO. So the way you can support even more is by going onto my website, www.realisticceo.com, ordering your copy of the Realistic CEO book and also the Realistic CEO podcast magazine. See you in the next one. Peace.